you very much, and thank you, and that was brilliant. And of course, Anthony, thank you for joining us today. That was a fantastic presentation. I love it. So I'm just hoping I can share my screen. Yeah, there we go. One moment. Portion of screen. This is the hard bit to multitask. So hopefully you can see that. Great. So it's great to be here again, and really unfortunate that we can't do this in person. But as you know, we have a purpose for this meeting, and this is something that we will take forward. And I think we will have still some really good learnings today. And so I'm going to talk to you very briefly about building a brand and also demand strategy on LinkedIn. And so I'm going to get right into this. So you may have seen some of this information or this research that we did recently. So we recently worked with the IPA, which is a body for marketers. It's a trade organization in the UK, and it has a huge database. So over like 40 years of econometric data on hundreds of brands. So Les Binet and Peter Field have spent over a decade analyzing the data to determine what marketing strategies correlate with the most growth. And when I say growth, I'm not talking about click rates. I'm actually talking about market share, revenue, and profitability, or what we're calling very large business effects. So this is some of the only research in our industry that links marketing inputs with business outputs. And that's why the research is having such a massive impact. Now, historically, Binet and Field's research didn't distinguish between B2B and B2C marketing. And we've actually never really done a real cut of the B2B data until now. So I'm going to share with you one of the main things that came out of this research. And really that it's about the principles of growth in B2B. And what we got to show is that there has to be a balance in growth. The problem with modern marketing is that it really is quite unbalanced. We're overly invested in a narrow set of strategies, and those strategies you see here in red are those that we kind of really focus on. Now, what we need to consider are the other side of the equation. So the strategies in green. And we need to achieve a better balance between long and short, reason and emotion, and broad and narrow targeting. Now, for the purpose of the day, we're going to focus on the long and short-term aspects of marketing, and really where we need to focus as B2B marketeers. So the first type of marketing actually is called sales activation. Sales activation delivers short-term growth. It increases sales right away, but the results decay quickly, and its effectiveness doesn't increase over time. In B2B, we usually call this type of marketing lead generation or demand gen, but that's actually not an accurate description of what it does. Sales activation doesn't really create demand. It helps capture demand, the demand that's there right in front of you. Now, the second type of marketing is called brand building, and it delivers long-term growth. Like sales activation, brand building does generate some short-term sales, but that's not its true strength. The real value of brand is that it generates demand over the long run, and this can impact future sales. So brand effects last longer and compound over time. And that's why over time, we find that brand is the biggest driver of growth for businesses. So what does this mean? Ultimately, you need to balance both long-term and short-term growth. So you need activation to maximize short-term sales, and you need brand to maximize long-term sales. But you need to manage and measure these two types of marketing in very different ways. Now, in B2C, Binet and Field found that the optimal balance follows around the 60-40 rule. So 60% of your budget should be spent on long-term brand building, and 40% should be spent on short-term activation. In B2B, however, we've looked at the data, and it's shown us that the balance looks actually a little different. It's actually more like a 50-50 rule in B2B, with the balance weighted a bit towards activation. And this makes sense when you think about it. Generally speaking, sales activation is much harder in B2B than it is in B2C. In B2B, sales cycles are far longer, actually, when we think about it. There are dozens of touch points required to close a deal, many more stakeholders involved in the decision, and many more functional product benefits that really need to be shared with customers and prospects. Coca-Cola doesn't need to spend much time explaining all the functional benefits of Coke Zero or Coke. IBM, on the other hand, they need to put a lot more work into, who to close a multi-million dollar IT contract with. It's not to say that activation creates more value. It's just that it requires more resources. So brand marketing is really developing and nurturing a relationship with your audience and positioning your brand as a trusted, helpful industry leader over the long term. So when they're ready to buy, when your customers or prospects are ready to buy, buyers think of your products and services first. Now, demand marketing is about creating urgency around specific offerings and services to drive immediate growth. So these activities are highly targeted to encourage and excite key audiences to drive demand and help your businesses achieve its goals. Now, these two descriptions actually are from something that I want to share with you today for short-term and long-term brand and demand. And this is from our new playbook, which we've just released, which is the brand and demand playbook. Now, I'm going to share a link at the end of this, a QR code, so get your QR codes ready, your QR code scanners ready, where you can download this straight away. And of course, we'll share this in the chat so you can have it directly there. It's a free playbook, which I think will really help you as you bring your brand out into the market more and decide where you're going to focus. And there's some great stuff in this. But just want to highlight a few things. I'm not going to go into the detail because you'll be able to do this yourself through looking through the playbook. But we surveyed advertisers using LinkedIn marketing solutions, and we found that more than 50% say that they want to run brand and demand campaigns together. And that consider the whole journey. So from interested visitor to paying customers. So like many marketers, you likely are using a brand to demand strategy, and we're seeing more of that happening on the platform. So it's really important that if you're not doing this already, you're taking part in that, so you can be part of that journey. Now, the other thing is that as you can see here on this presentation, on this slide, we now have a world-class toolkit at LinkedIn to be able to allow you to deliver brand and demand together. Now, if I came to you 3 years and had this presentation 3 years ago with you, I wouldn't say this is as possible. But now, I believe when you look at the breadth of solutions that we have available to you, we can really support you on this. And when we think about that in terms of what this might look like, let's think about the kind of buyers that are out there. So there are really, if you boil it down, there are really two types of buyers. There are in-market and out-of-market buyers. And they're really different audiences, which means marketers need to take a different approach when it comes to creative, to distribution, and to measurement. Now, an in-market customer will pay attention to much more rational messaging about a company's products, whereas an out-of-market customer is more likely to pay attention to an emotional message. In-market customers can be more narrowly targeted based on the jobs they're in today, but out-of-market customers, they need to be more broadly targeted based on the jobs they might have in a few years. Now, when it comes to measurements, you can measure your impact on in-market customers with sales metrics like revenue per leads, cost per conversion, so forth. But to measure your impact on out-of-market buyers, you really need to measure memorability. So will your brand be thought of when that customer is finally ready to buy? One example from me is, I don't know if there's a company here called Ronsil in the UK. I don't know, I can't remember if they're in South Africa or not, but they do a lot of sealants for worktops and all this kind of stuff. And as a recent a new homeowner, I started having to get into this, and I remember the adverts for Ronsil. It says what it does on the tin, and that was something I used to watch when I was a kid. And so, what's the first product I buy when I needed to seal a worktop? I went and bought Ronsil. So that's how you're building brands in such a long time frame. So you need to select ad formats that match to the type of content that you're hoping to promote, and thinking about where this format sits in the funnel. Is it for the long term? Is it for the short term? And you need to align that. So as an example, you might want to run a single image or a video ad that showcases your brand and your brand's offerings in the awareness stage, but then you want to really drill into showcasing your value proposition in the consideration stage, and finally in the last stage and around conversion, you know, show customer stories and get into depths of the details of your product so that people can really get that information that they need when they're about to purchase. Now, there's more detail in this, obviously, in the playbook, and here's a really sort of a good example here from the playbook as well about how you can combine these different marketing objectives, and you using the right format, the right field, the right messaging, the right type of the funnel. And there's a whole breadth of combinations that we know work with our customers, and I think you'll find a lot of value out of going through this and comparing this to your existing strategies that you have at the moment. Now, I've spoken a lot here, and what I wanted to, you know, sort of finish up with here, apart from one customer story, is what this might look like on LinkedIn, so that you get a visual view of this. So here's a potential journey on LinkedIn. So it could be a series of campaigns where here someone sees a video and watches enough of it that an advertiser of it, that the advertiser, there's value for them. And now you can retarget those people based on who's watched that to the certain amount of length. And then you can retarget that person with a single image or a message ad or conversation ad together. And then finally, when you get to that point, you can then have a lead generation form where that can go directly into your CRM and your sales team can speak to those people directly. Now, one of the best examples I think we've seen of this is with Vmware, one of the largest IT companies in the world. They do data virtualization of software. So they've developed a sophisticated omni-channel framework, and it leverages multiple channels, data points, targeting segments and offerings, and delivers the content right to the right audience at the right time. So they created a series of campaigns that targeted named accounts, honing in on website activities, seniority, job titles, member interest, and geography. And then on LinkedIn, they used a mix of single image, carousel, and video ads to deliver different offers from thought leadership to product trials. And this was all based on the stage of the funnel and previous engagement behavior. So they retargeted those that watched the video more than 25% of the time from those ads, well, more than 25% of the video. And with the next stage, with the next journey stage, content offer. So they were offering content to see on the next page. So the combination of the feed formats, the LinkedIn feed formats, allowed them to bring the story to life and capture the highest levels of interest and then drive key accounts to conversion points through the funnel. Now, you might have seen a very short snippet from the video that Anthony showed of I Heart ABM. And this is I think one of the most exciting things as well, with the combination of this and account-based marketing and the partners that we have to provide that. I think this is going to be really bringing marketing to the next stage. And it did for Vmware. So this actually generated click-through rates around 3 times higher, and importantly, a cost per lead 50% lower than LinkedIn industry benchmark. So I think it's an amazing story about Vmware and what they've managed to do. So that's all from me for now. And here is a very exciting QR code, which you can get access to the playbook for free. I'll be sharing the link in the chat as well, or someone from the team will be. Now, just before I finish though, I really wanted to ask Ayanda, because Ayanda is there in in Joburg, and obviously in Cape Town quite a lot, working with a lot of you there, and she's obviously done a lot of work helping you to grow your brand. And I just want to, Ayanda, from South Africa's point of view, how have you seen brand on LinkedIn change? How do you see that?
How have I seen brands on LinkedIn change?
Yeah.
I've seen them change really in starting to better understand the platform and what it's, positioned for and what it's positioned to do for the brands. So, I mean, it's really become a huge education element where, we're really continuously having to partner with our clients and educate them about the power of LinkedIn. And of course, you know, having these new products and these new features rolling out over the years has helped us really make our brands more successful in Africa. So, I mean, I've seen brands that do really well are ones which give themselves time to understand and listen to their audiences, to really, understand what creative elements work, and also maybe be more tactical in how they approach their strategies as well. So yeah, over the years, it certainly has been, a work in progress where we really try to better understand what our audiences want, and how we can best listen to them to give them the best solutions.
That's super interesting. So you mentioned about what audiences want. And so do you feel like our brands in South Africa, when they're on LinkedIn, they're understanding more and more the different parts of the journey? So you have that whole brand and then demand part. Is that something that you're seeing happening more with your customers?
Yeah, certainly. I must say it's definitely for the much bigger corporations and brands. I think we still have a little bit of a longer way to go when it comes to the new brands or the smaller businesses who are just really trying to get leads. It's really, again, as I said previously, where we just need to make sure that we're educating them as much as possible. But certainly for the bigger brands, I think they have hit the nail on the head. They've got it right. And it's really just about giving themselves that time to understand the entire marketing funnel journey, that we have to always have, this always on type of approach. Start with brand awareness, create salience and nurture our audiences. And then eventually do we want to start, bringing in the demand generation parts of the conversation.
And just one final question. Obviously, we've just been through, the big crisis and all that kind of stuff, and we're slowly coming out of that. And I think, actually, I think Africa is doing better than the UK even. We're probably going to go back into lockdown here. But I remember some of the brands that we were working with in Africa were doing some great things at the time, like talking about what they were doing for community. Have you seen, have they been talking to you about how that affected their demand at the moment? Or has that been a conversation that you've had with your clients about those community campaigns that we're doing at the time of the crisis?
Rylan, to be honest with you, not so much yet. I think we only just reached the time where we're able to look back on the year that was, and perhaps then, look at the reviews and see how we've gained and what we've, really gotten out of the efforts that we put in over the years. So I'll be more than happy to share all of those insights with you, perhaps maybe in a month or so, but not just yet.
Long term, that's the thing. These things take time. But
100%.
Great. Well, thanks for answering those questions. I just thought it would be great to have your point of view as our person on the ground, for sure.
Not a problem at all. Thank you so much, Rylan. I mean, your presentation really had some great insights there, and I hope people are ready to find the balance between brand.
I do hope next. Sorry, go ahead. I was just saying, I do hope next time that you can see my giraffe here, Gerald. He's actually not from Africa. He's from Brighton. But I have been to Kruger, obviously, but it would be great to, or Pilansberg. But next time I'll have a giraffe, hopefully from, well, not a real one.
Oh, we definitely can't wait to have you back here again. I can't wait until all of this is over and we get to hug in person again.
Perfect. Thank you very much.